Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Let's Chat, and today we've got Thomas van Tonder joining us. So Thomas is a OCR Red Bull athlete, and if you're not sure what OCR is obstacle course racing. And Thomas will be sharing some of his insights into mindset that's required to be a top performer. Thomas, how's it going?
How's it, man? Yeah, it's going really well, thanks. Yourself?
All good, thanks. Before we kick off, I just want to, you've got a list of career highlights that are almost pages long, so I'm not going to go through every single one, but I'm going to go through just some of the most recent ones. Was your 2020 project was the Rising with the Sun, which was the 50-meter world champ, yeah, with the
Yeah,
50-meter.
Guinness World Record attempt for the fastest 50-meter rope climb.
Sure, yeah. And then 2019, I'm going to go through was your sprint OCR world champion, 2019 second in the 3 kilometer OCR world championships, 2018 SA champion, 2018 Warrior National Series winner, 19 times Warrior Black Ops Elite winner. So I think everybody gets the point, where you get the idea. But yeah, like I said, we mentioned now Thomas's most recent project, which was the world record attempt. I think you broke the world record for the 50 meter, right?
Yeah, so if I have to sum it up, it is a rope climb between the two Soweto towers in Joburg.
Yes.
Full climb was a 94-meter climb. So we
Okay.
attempted the fastest 50-meter rope climb within a 94-meter distance of climbing. But yes, I got it.
Okay, that's awesome. Cool. So before we kick off on that, maybe do you want to share with us how you got into OCR or obstacle course racing? Because it's obviously not a sport that you do at school and stuff like that. So how did that come about, or how did you get into it?
That's a very a question I get a lot.
Yes, I'm sure.
OCR or racing is not the most familiar of sports if you compare it to things like rugby or cricket, of any of those sports. The South African scene of obstacle course racing started to really get some speed by like the start of 2014. And I
Okay.
kind of found it with some mates. I did kickboxing at that stage, just with some mates, went out to have a jawl and do this thing called warrior race. Like make people run and jump and you crawl through mud, and it just seemed like this jawl of a thing to do. And I remember finishing the first event, we did the 5K, which they call the rookie. And
Yeah.
as we finished our 5K loop, we saw the winners of the big one, which is the Black Ops or Black Ops Elite, like the 15K discipline. As we finished our 5K, they came in to finish, and I thought to myself, like, you could actually do this as a race. That is the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen. But it looked like so much fun. I thought, okay, I've always been running, and I grew up on a farm. Jumping through stuff and climbing over stuff is not too much of a something that'll keep me away from it. And I thought, okay, I'll
Yes.
enter the next race. And I remember the night before sitting there, and there's this two boxes to tick. One is Black Ops Elite, and one just being Black Ops. I thought, ooh, this Elite thing sounds like people up there. You can't really tick this Elite box. Just I'm rather gonna go to the like just Black Ops.
Okay.
And we started 10 minutes behind like the first batch, and I ran the whole race. Like I felt really good and just had a jaw. And as I came over the finish line, they told me, no, I'm second. I thought, okay, I must be second in my batch. They told me, no, you're second overall. I'm like, geez, Thomas, okay, well, this is something I could actually like, I could do well at. So I entered another one. Then I was brave enough for the elite box, and I came second again behind a good friend of mine called
Okay.
JJ Daisel. And then from there, I won three of them in a row, and it's almost like this bit of a light bulb moment. Like, hey, Thomas, you've got this capacity that you didn't know you have to do well at this crazy event, and it's all like I wouldn't say downhill from there, but the rest is history. Yeah, from there up to now is a 6 7 year journey.
Okay. And tell me, obviously you must have been somewhat fit going into that first race and that. What did you do before? Were you in that sort of fitness world, or were you just keeping fit like as some people do after hours type thing?
Yeah, I would call myself between a weekend warrior and an elite athlete. I wasn't really super fit, but I wasn't like just chilled as well, like somewhere in the middle. I was always a bit of a runner, not an exceptional runner, but I ran on school the longer distances, like 800s and 1,500 meter and those kind of stuff. And
Okay.
at the time that I started doing obstacle racing, I was seriously into kickboxing. So I had
Okay.
that sort of intense bursts of cardio fitness with a bit of running background, and that really translated well into doing this crazy sport of mine.
Yeah, so yeah, I've done a bit of boxing and that, so I know the boxing and the kickboxing training. That's from a fitness perspective. So you were pretty fit then, is what you were saying, compared to the
Yeah,
average guy.
it gets underestimated easily, the difficulty of like fighting cardio. It's brutal. It can be really hard.
Yeah, and we'll get to that point now also, is because it's there. It is obviously the physical side, but not just the physical side, the mental side, and that as well comes into play massively.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the. I want to just get the wording right because I keep calling it the rising of the sun. So the rising with the sun project, right? Maybe just talk about how did that come about? Where did the idea come about? Like it's not just something you just naturally think of.
No, it is Rising with the Sun was the kind of name of the project in general, or of the documentary on Red Bull TV is called Rising with the Sun.
Okay.
The idea we kind of came from when we had our hard lockdown in South Africa, and like everything was closed down and you couldn't even step outside to breathe for 10 minutes. People look at you funny. We thought, well, I wanted to find something that I can channel all this like athlete energy into. Like I'm always a training program, like full time, this and that, going towards some big event and a year build up to world champs or something. And now there's like
Yes.
nothing. And mentally that was driving me crazy. And I needed something to work on, but I needed something big enough that I could kind of scare myself out of this slack, lazy zone that we've kind of moved into. And a couple ideas were floating about, and we thought about elements of obstacle racing that we could kind of blow up and do something big with it. But it couldn't be an event, it needed to be an individual attempt. And it was kind of my idea to do a ridiculously long rope climb. And when we found this venue as well, the Soweto Towers, they have an established bungee.
Perfect, eh?
All the rigging is there. Like there's a lift to the top of film trees or whatever we want to do. And initially, it just started out as that. We wanted to summit the Soweto Towers with a rope. And then along the way, the Guinness World Records kind of attempt played into it. Long story short, we wanted to do 100-meter at first, the Guinness World Record attempt, but the towers was only 4 meters. So like, if I say only 94, 94 is really high. Don't get it wrong.
Well, yeah.
But we narrowed it down eventually that we're gonna attempt the fastest 50-meter rope climb, so the 50 meters for time.
Okay. Cool.
And then include that as part of the full summit of the Soweto Towers, with the rope. If I say with the rope, it's like a 32 millimeter Manila rope, which is like a battle rope, which you'll find in a CrossFit gym. It's a rope like that, suspended vertically, straight line, unbroken from the top down to the floor, and we'd climb that for time. It was pretty insane.
So I'm going to just add that the full clip to this video will be posted below, where you can actually go and watch it on the Red Bull channel. They've made like a short little documentary series for 20 minutes long, and you can actually go watch this whole climb of Thomas's there. And it actually got some awesome footage of you with I assume like a GoPro or something on that you're filming, and that gives you some sort of idea of how freaking high that is. I like the Red Bull on the page there. They've got just giving you an idea of how tall like certain buildings are and certain like landmarks, and it puts it into perspective of how high that is. It's high. Yeah.
Yeah, it's high, but it's high from the bottom, but it's really high from the top.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so tell me, you mentioned something now interesting, which I picked up on, is that you said that you went down in lockdown, and then obviously all your events were cancelled and that. Are you quite a highly driven, like I need a goal person, like I need something to work for or towards continuously?
Um, I I think I never really realized that I actually am. I used to say no, but like the proof's in the pudding. We were locked down. I couldn't do anything, and like I was frustrated and always grumpy, and like I needed something. And from that, it's for sure, yes, it helps me a lot to be able to know what am I channeling my energy towards? Like all this hard work, where is it going? Like for what? That made a huge difference. Just feeling, I want to say better, just more satisfied that the work that I'm doing is going in a direction where it means something.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there now is quite a good point as well, is the energy and channeling that into something, and that mentally, because it obviously, like you mentioned, it can take a toll on you, not being able to work towards that something.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Uh, um, okay, all right, cool. So you obviously did that project and that. How long did you prepare for that project? Well, it must have been about 6 months or so.
that was specifically like a 5 month build up for that project. Um, of which we had a simulation, which we set up
Okay.
inside of. You say you're based in Joburg, the people locally would know City Rock is a pretty well-known gym in Joburg, a
Yes.
climbing gym. Climbing gym. I'm one of their like partnered athletes, and we do some stuff together. And they said, okay, Thomas, like we'll help you out to try and train for this thing. Because where do you train to climb with like a freaking
Yeah.
story long rope? Like you only find that you can't put it in a tree is maybe 4 meters high. So we had a rope to the roof of City Rock. Inside was 11.6 meters, and we set
Okay.
up a safety rope that they could manage and lower me on. So I would climb to the top of the rope, and then they'd lower me on the safety line. That was the initial training setup, and I'd go there 2-3 times a week and just pure simulation, to try and simulate it as closely as possible to what we would be trying to attempt on game day. That
Okay.
was kind of the scope thing.
Yeah, so like yeah, what you're mentioning now is like you don't really think about the logistics behind it, being able to practice something like that because you can't really even you mentioned 11 meters doesn't. So how did you prepare actually it's a good question. How did you prepare yourself mentally um, for that height because you couldn't really practice before?
Yeah, so we had one or two, let's call it plans that we tried to dive into that realm of preparation. Because like
Okay.
physically, yes, you can do so much, like you go to the gym and you climb, but the mental side of getting to that tower, and for some perspective, the 50-meter mark is the
Yeah.
most exposed spot on the whole site, meaning it's the furthest spot from the ground, it's the furthest spot from the top, and from the two towers to the side. You're literally this little dot blip isolated from everything around you, hanging with your hands and your feet on a rope. Like
Yes.
such a terrifying spot to be at. And if you're not prepped and comfortable to like keep composure, there's no way you're gonna do that climb just like on the fly. So we thought,
Yes.
how do we simulate that and prepare for that? And we came up with the idea to you'll see it in the documentary as well. We took a 25-meter rope, put it in a huge hiking bag, and we went into the kloofs in it's called Tonkwane. It's a kloof in the Magaliesberg mountain range, just behind
Okay.
Buffelspoort Dam.
Okay.
There's a 75-meter abseil in like this massive gorge, and we thought, okay, we'll take Thomas. That's me. We'll drop myself down on a rope and try and simulate that feeling of being super exposed and being out there and kind of just almost want to say mentally rehearse being composed while being exposed, if that makes sense. And then just like in the gym, we would sometimes, like when I'm halfway up the rope, we would say, like, imagine around you, you're halfway up the tower, the wind is blowing, you're swinging left and right, like So if game day comes, we've kind of simulated the environment, simulated whatever can kind of come my way to be as composed as possible when really like attempting it on game day.
Yeah, so you mentioned something very interesting. So because that was going to be one of my questions later on also is, do you use an element of visualization? I know a lot of the Formula One drivers, a lot of the top athletes will actually sit and golfers and stuff, and that is, all of these sports, I suppose most sports are quite highly intensive mind sports, but some are, I think, a little bit more like the obstacle climbing, high energy stuff, boxing, the Formula One stuff, and that too, where the guys actually visualize the whole race and the track and each corner and the speeds and everything like that. So is that what you sort of practiced then at this when you were doing this free hanging at the cliff or wherever it was?
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. I think visualization or mental preparation goes like so closely in hand with physical preparation. It's hard to, even if you say more mental sports or more physical sports, I think it's hard to separate those two in my opinion. But visualizing or mental, I guess visualization of what's to come is a huge part of my personal preparation for specifically like these events or even the obstacle racing events.
Yes.
The races really likes to throw something your way that you never previously attempted or you don't know, or so like they kind of want to shock you out of your comfort zone and hit you with something you've never seen, and you have to take that obstacle in full stride in your race, like flat taps, heart rate through the roof, and you need to take that thing and try and complete it as fast and as good as possible to still win the race. So I do a lot of I guess it's visualization, but if you say visualization, it's to me trying to see the small things go right. So on the rope climb attempt, that would be every time I lock my hands, I have a certain posture that I need to keep to be able to use the right muscles, not to fatigue my. So that'll be grabbing the rope and visualizing the right posture movements. I had to lock my feet into the rope each time I climbed. So I'd visualize that locking well, feeling strong, especially like so just to give some background context, I was bringing up my feet, locking it into the rope, and then pushing down on my feet, reaching up, and then grabbing with my hands. So that like a little worm movement. So I would kind of try not to focus too much on what the rigging team is doing, what the media team is doing, what the rope itself was doing, or swinging left and right in the wind. Just kind of imagine what I personally need to execute right, and then visualize the small things within that segment going well, and then just try and. Well, I guess that just goes back to training, like training that in, visualizing it, and do 5 months of that, and then go climb a ridiculously long rope.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting what you were mentioning there now also, because what you basically explained is that you got quite granular with all the exercises. You're talking about very specific little movements and how your posture and stuff like that. That's quite granular, because you tend to think like you would use visualization and think of, okay, I'm climbing up the rope and I'm going to get to the top, and that's the visualization. But you actually got very granular with it, like movements and stuff, which is quite interesting.
I feel like this attempt or the rope climb, it's way more complicated, like technical than the it's from outside. So we only really started getting good times or good traction when we nailed the smaller things. So I felt like that was in this project important part of the bigger thing. So I spent a lot of time on that, kind of trying to just make sure that what I need to do, I'm super comfortable and confident that I will be able to nail it.
Tell me, the rope, when you mentioned now, was there a lot of movement?
Yeah, quite a bit. A lot of it just comes from my movements, from me grabbing the rope.
So it's like a pendulum effect.
Yeah, it swings me around, and the piece of rope underneath me kind of whiplash left and right. And that is something that we did not expect, or not expect, but we couldn't simulate as much. Like a lot of training time in the gym, the rope would not be nearly as long. We don't get close to the same amount of whiplash at the bottom. So that's really something that I had to take on game day and just be comfortable with it.
So that was something that you couldn't prepare for. Basically, it was one of those deal with it on the day type thing. And how do you actually prepare for that? Because you can't. You just got to be mentally strong and know that not everything's going to be perfect.
Yes, exactly. I kind of say it like this. I'm someone that loves to know when something is going to be hard, that it's going to be hard. Meaning, if you rock up at an event and you have the expectation that this is not going to be too hard, it'll be okay, and then it's really hard, then it feels extra like difficult. But if you rock up there and the expectation is like this is going to be super difficult, and it isn't as bad, then you feel really good. So I kind of tried to manage the expectation of the stuff that have come out on game day. Like there's going to be things that's going to feel funny. There's going to be things that's going to swing around. Just don't focus on it. Keep form, keep rhythm, keep breathing, and do your thing.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting thing as well that you mentioned now. So you're preparing for the worst case scenario almost, and then if it's easier, then obviously you've already prepared for it. But if you've prepared for this level and it's that level, then basically what it means is you haven't prepared mentally for it. So that will throw you. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll not.
Tell me, okay, cool. So what going a little bit off to your routine, I quite like knowing routines and morning rituals and stuff like that. What does a typical day, okay, obviously COVID now has changed things considerably, but say pre-COVID and post-COVID, what does a typical day in like Thomas's world look like? What is I assume you got stages where you're preparing for an event, then you got high intensity training, and then you got chill off time. Just sort of give us an idea of what your day looks like typically. How does your day go?
Okay. First, let's just establish I stay out close to Hartbeespoort in the Magaliesberg Mountain. I literally stay halfway up a mountain.
Okay.
Google Oppieberg guest house, like we stay right next to it.
Okay.
It's I'm married. I have a son which is a year and a half old, so he kind of keeps us early mornings. Is easy. It happens automatically.
Yes.
I have a good environment for what I do, like trail running and races and stuff, like preparation wise. A typical like build up block to an event, I would have obviously a month or 2 out. You'll have specific build up to a certain race. 4 weeks out, I'll have like 2-3 really hard weeks, and I'll take about a week of taper. So a week of less volume, less intensity, and more just fine tuning form and rhythm and so on. Usually a morning in the house of Thomas. My boy would wake up early, anything between 4 and 5 o'clock, which is fine for me because I can get up early, and I'm a very much a early morning person. Sunrise. I even got married at sunrise.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, because you'll find some people actually struggle with mornings, and some people it's just naturally easier.
I'm on the natural easy side for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I love mornings. I would wake up and we'd always get out of bed before we make coffee. Like we don't make coffee and then sit in bed and drink coffee. We used to do that.
Okay.
Your phone is right there, like on the little pedestal next to the bed, and everything is cushy and nice, and you kind of tend to waste a lot of the morning if we make coffee and get back in bed.
That's awesome. So we'd
wake up, make a coffee. I love to have a coffee and a little rusk. My wife makes like homemade rusks. They're the best.
South African wife, obviously.
So we'd have coffee and rusks. Then from there, my focus would move to first priority is for me training. What that looks like for the day, whether it's a yoga or a long run or whatever it means. I feel like if I can do what's priority for me first, I feel content that the rest of the day I can focus on other things, and my priority thing has been ticked. That box is good. So I kind of, it doesn't always work out like that. it's crazy. Sometimes if I don't get to train, I'm really grumpy. But that's kind of what my mornings look like. And then from there, I move into whatever else we have planned for the day, which is generally quite busy.
Okay, and tell me, so that's also a very good point that you made there, is that when you follow like guys like Robin Sharma, Tony Robbins, and that they'll say that the morning is actually scientifically when your brain is at its peak as well, from a brainwave perspective. So that first hour and a half, 2 hours of the day, doing your most sort of, or 2 or 3 hours, whatever it is, doing your most important thing for the day in that period. So it's interesting that you actually also do it like that. Training, like normal training times before an event or whatever, how many days a week do you train? Do you train every day a little bit, or how do you go about that?
I do 6 days a week generally. Okay. So obviously, depending on how far we are out from event. If I'm in like 2 really big weeks, I'd have a like recovery day that'll still have a small run or something in it. Usually Fridays is my either off day or recovery day. The rest of the day, mostly running at this stage. Personally, I'm working on that as one of my, I wouldn't say weaknesses, but internationally the Europeans and some of the US guys, they outrun me. I catch them on the heavy strength. Quite a big fella for a runner, but running is my weakest aspect on the stage. So I spend a lot of running. I'd have 1, sometimes 2 strength specific sessions a week, which is more aimed at an obstacle or just running form strengthening or whatever that entails. And the rest is either high intensity days followed by an easier day. So I don't have big days back to back often. Sometimes on weekends, Saturday, crazy, depending on what we do. But I'd have an easier day after every hard day. We call it just try and bank the training and just not smash it out the whole time.
Yes.
Kind of makes up my week. Closer to events, it'll calm down a little bit, more rest days, easier days, obviously. The taper week, and that's about about 6 days a week on average.
That taper week is that's the week leading up to the race, right? So like the week before.
Yeah.
That's where you sort of taper down, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's kind of just bring down your intensity in training, so your body can actually recover the muscles that's been broken in training, so you can be ready for race day. But it just helps mentally if you're feeling tired pre-event. It's just that bit of doubt. Are you really ready for this thing or not? But if you're feeling good, mentally it gives you a bit more like endorphins and confidence. So I coach a couple of people this with a coaching company to do all these crazy kind of OCR races. And I tend to give them shorter, easier workouts to do in build-up week to an event with one or two harder segments. But the idea is to let them train and feel good about what they've done and not feel like crap, I didn't achieve this pace or I didn't achieve this distance. Then they kind of feel you move in negative space. So I guess it comes back to that managing the expectation versus reality. So if you're expecting hard and you do it and it feels really good. So taper week is a crucial part physically and mentally in build up to any big event.
Okay, no, that's cool. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of gems that you've actually shared, and if people listen carefully, in that you'll pick up those gems and stuff like that. So because a lot of times the gold is in the simple things. It's not in the complicated. It's in the little things that you do.
It's normally, what was saying, I can't remember it exactly now, but simple doesn't mean easy. Like simple things, nailing the simple things is always like, I don't want to do the simple stuff. I want to do the advanced stuff. Like simple doesn't mean easy. If you can get the simple things right, like the rest would usually fall into place. Yeah.
Should fall into place. Yeah. All right, cool. Thomas, thank you so much we're getting towards the end in that. I want to, just want to wind it down and just thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know that everybody that's going to watch this and that is going to get a lot of value out of this. Where and how can people get hold of you if people want to follow you? By the way, I just want to quickly throw it out. Instagram, we'll have the link down below, but Instagram, go and check that Thomas's page out, and that there are some awesome photos and some videos that you've got there, those short videos and stuff. Awesome. But how else can people get hold of you, or what other ways can they follow you?
Yeah, mostly it's like you mentioned, Instagram is kind of the go-to. Quite active on there. It's at Thomas R or at Thomas_OCR, but I'm pretty sure if you just search Thomas van Tonder, it'll come up somewhere.
Okay, cool.
A lot of stuff on the Red Bull Challenge channels. So the Red Bull Rising with the Sun documentary on Red Bull TV, I would suggest to go have a look at it. They did a really good job of capturing the whole thing. Yeah, other than that, I'd be on Facebook as well, but I'm way more active on Instagram, so that'll be the go-to if someone wants to find Thomas.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So, like Thomas said, now follow him there on the Instagram. All these links will be posted below. The Red Bull channel that you mentioned, we'll post that link as well directly to that documentary, so you can go watch that challenge of Thomas's last year. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel for future interviews and that. And we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.